Hey friends, welcome to Relatively Refined. My name is Paula. Well, there's something very special about a cozy afternoon at home, the kind of afternoon where the tea kettle is humming, the dogs are snoozing, and something delicious is baking in the oven. The world just seems to slow down on those kind of afternoons. Today we're going to combine two of my favorite things, baking and books. And while I make a batch of lavender scones, pour a pot of tea, we'll sit down and have a chat about one of my favorite fiction moods, cozy domestic fiction. If that sounds like something you're interested in, then stick around and let's get started. Well, we're going to head over into the kitchen in just a minute here and get started on those lavender scones. And when those are finished, I'll pour us a pot of tea, we'll sit down and have a chat. Let's head into the kitchen. Well, we're going to be making a recipe that I found in this book, The Art of Tea, which is published by the editors of Victoria magazine, which just actually happens to be one of my favorite magazines. And I was looking through it and I came upon the recipe for lavender scones, and I thought they looked, first of all, so pretty, and they sounded delicious. And as a bonus, I happen to have some edible lavender flowers on hand, so it made perfect sense. I'm going to turn you around here in just a minute and show you what I have for ingredients. It's a really simple recipe, and I think it will be delicious. I have my oven preheating to 350, so let's go ahead and get started on these lavender scones. All right, well, I did go and put my apron on, and let me just show you what we've got going on down here. And I will link this recipe in the description box of the video for you. So I'm starting out with 2 cups of self-rising flour. Now, I did not actually have any self-rising flour, so I made my own. And you can make your own by adding, you add 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt to every cup of flour. So I just doubled that. So in here, I've got the 2 cups of the self-rising flour. I'm going to just set that aside. Let me see what the recipe says to do here. We're going to whisk together the flour and the sugar. So I've got a 1/4 cup of sugar, and I'm going to add that right in here. Whisk that together. And then I'm going to take my butter, and I have a 1/4 cup of butter, which is 1/2 of a stick, and it's cold. And I'm going to just put it in there. I already cut it into little cubes. So I'm going to add this into my flour and sugar mixture. And using my impeccably clean hands, I am going to kind of squish this together until it resembles kind of a coarse meal. So I basically use my fingers and I pinch the flour into the sugar and I pinch the butter into the sugar and flour mixture until it's just coarse grounds. All right, so I've got this kind of ground up, and to this I'm going to add my lavender flowers. Now it's a very small amount. Let me just see, it's 2 tablespoons of dried lavender flowers. So I'll add those in and just kind of stir that around. All right, now I'll set that aside and I'm going to work on my liquid ingredients. So in another bowl, I'm going to mix together the cream, and let me see, it is, what have we got? 1/2 cup of cold whipping cream. And this is cold. I just took it out of the fridge. So I'm going to add 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream to my bowl. And I'm going to now add 1 egg. Crack that into there. And then a teaspoon of vanilla. And this is my homemade vanilla. So I'll add about a teaspoon of that. And we are going to just whip that together. Now the last ingredient that I'm going to add to my dried mixture is a teaspoon of lemon zest. So I'll add that right in there. And now I'm going to mix together the wet and dry ingredients and stir just to combine. Get all that out. Take my spoon and I will stir this just to combine. And the key to this really is to not overmix it. You want to get it so it just comes together. All right, so that's just coming together, and I'm going to turn it out onto my floured silpat over here and kind of knead it up a little bit. So let me go ahead and get that silpat floured up, and we'll knead this out and then roll it in, pat it into kind of a circle, and we'll cut out our scones. All right, I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on this. This is a gift from my mom. It's from the King Arthur Flour Company, and I love it. So I'm going to turn out my scone dough, and it looks kind of crumbly, and I'm just going to gather it up here and knead it till it all kind of comes together. It takes just a minute to get it kneaded together. And like I said, you don't really want to overwork your dough. It looks kind of like it's still crumbly, but that's how you want it to look to give you the most tender scones. I want to just get all my little lavender flowers here. All right, and I'm going to pat this out into a round, and then I will take my rolling pin and roll it out. So I'm going to roll this out to about a 1/2 inch thick. I think that looks like about a 1/2 inch. And now I'm going to go get my biscuit cutter and cut these out and put them on my baking pan, which I will line with some parchment. So let me grab some parchment and my biscuit cutter. I'll be right back. And now, the trick with scones is I'm going to take my biscuit cutter and I'm going to press it down. Do not turn it, just lift it straight up. And we'll put this over here on the baking sheet. Something happens if you twist it. They say it does something to it so that it cannot, it doesn't rise properly when you go put it in the oven. So the key is not to twist your biscuit cutter. And I don't know how many this is supposed to make, but we'll cut out what we can, and then I'll roll the scraps up and cut out a few more. Here they are, ready to go into the oven. My oven is preheated to 350, so I'm going to stick these in, and they bake for about, what does that say, Neve, over there? How long do they bake?
15 minutes.
About 15 minutes or until they're golden brown. Well, the scones are out of the oven. They look perfect. Now, some of the ones toward the end were not the prettiest, but they're completely cooled, and I'm going to make a glaze to put on top of them. The glaze is simply confectioner's sugar that I've sifted. I'm going to add a little bit of heavy cream to it. It calls for milk, but I'm going to use the heavy cream and just kind of mix this around. You don't need a lot until I get it just the right consistency. And I know there are people behind me that are trying to get me to laugh while I'm filming. And I could turn the camera around and embarrass my family, which I just might do. There, they just hid, but they're trying to make me laugh while I'm filming. So, just so you know, this is real life at our house. They're doing their darndest. But I'm gonna make this glaze. And you see, I didn't laugh. It didn't work, guys. Add a little bit more. You just kind of add the heavy cream a little at a time until you get it to the consistency that you want. All right, let's see. I'm gonna get it just a little bit looser, not too much, it's almost there. So I'd say that's probably a cup, a little less than a cup of confectioner's sugar and about 3 teaspoons of heavy cream. Okay, so now I'm gonna glaze them. Let me pull these over. And I have them on a rack over top of the cookie sheet with, they're doing it again. I'm gonna turn you around because you can see I'm gonna split them all the way around. No, they're running away, you can't see them. They ran away. Who said I'm not a professional? All right, anyway, here we are, back with the scones. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to put a little bit of glaze over the top of each of the scones. Spread it over the top. Oh, they look so good. All right, I'll do these last 2. And the nice thing about using this rack is that it can just drip down onto the parchment paper. All right, and then as the final touch, what I'm gonna do is take a few of the little lavender flowers and just sprinkle them on the top. Just so you know what's inside. Gives you a little hint about the flavor of the scones. Ooh, they look so pretty. And here is a close-up look at them with their lavender flowers sprinkled on top. And I think these look delicious. Well, now that the scones are made and cooled, and I have one right over here, and the tea is brewed, let's have a little bookish chat about one of my favorite fictional genres, cozy domestic fiction. These are the stories of everyday life, of the triumphs and small dramas in the ordinary life. The books show us that happiness can be found in a tidy kitchen, in sharing a cup of tea, or in a simple walk to the post office on a sunny morning. From English villages full of gossipy neighbors and vicarage teas to small American towns full of friends and faith, these novels reassure us that the simple things in life can be enough. I have a stack of several books here that I want to share with you that I think you will truly enjoy and that will bring a sense of calm and peace to your life when you read them. The first set of books that I want to recommend are the Miss Green series. Miss Green is the pen name of Dora Saint, who was a school teacher in a small English village. She writes the most delightful books about English village life. There are 2 main series. There's the Fairacre series and the Thrush Green series. Let me just read to you the opening paragraph from Village Affairs by Miss Reed. It is an undisputed fact that people who choose to live in the country must expect to be caught up willy-nilly in the cycle of the seasons. Spring cleaning is done to the accompaniment of the rattle of tractors as they drill up and down the bare fields outside. Lambs bleat, cuckoos cry, blackbirds scold inquisitive cats, while upstairs the sufferers from spring influenza call hoarsely for cold drinks. And it's just delightful. I love all of her books. And I have been trying to actually collect vintage copies of the Miss Reed book. I so far have found one, which I got at a library sale. But if you are in the mood for quiet village life, the ins and outs of living in a small village in rural England, living by the seasons, and learning about all of the quirky characters who happen to live in those villages, then I recommend that you pick up a Miss Read book if you have not done so already. And bonus, if you really enjoy books about schools or school teachers, because these are so fun to read. If you're a teacher or you love that type of book, the Miss Read series will not disappoint. So first up on our cozy domestic fiction recommendation list are books by Miss Read. Next up on my list of cozy domestic fiction recommendations are books by Angela Thirkell. Angela Thirkell writes about village life in the fictional county of Barsetshire. I have two here. The High Rising is the first in the series, and then I also have Christmas at High Rising. Angela's books are very funny. They are full of romantic mix-ups involving vicars. They're full of neighbors that are gossipy and nosy, and all kinds of goings on in the village. Now, the village that she writes about is more genteel than the one that Miss Read writes about, but her humor is sharp. These are very, very funny, and I love her character development. Angela Thirkell is like going to a tea party with a very funny and witty best friend. So if you're looking for some funny and cozy domestic fiction, then I recommend you check out Angela Thirkell. Next up on my list of cozy domestic fiction recommendations is anything by D.E. Stevenson. I love D.E. Stevenson. You've heard me talk about Miss Bunkle's book on this channel before. It is such a fabulous and heartwarming story and very, very funny. This one is Mrs. Tim Gets a Job. And let me just read you the back of this. With husband Tim stationed in Egypt and her children at boarding school, Hester Christie, affectionately known as Mrs. Tim and based loosely on D.E. Stevenson herself, finds herself at loose end until her friend Grace finds her a job with the formidable Erica Clutterbuck, who has opened a new hotel in the Scottish borders. Well, this is just a fabulous story. I love anything by D.E. Stevenson. It's all the descriptions of the domestic part of life. They're the friendships between women, the resilience of women in the domestic sphere. She's the queen of that. And if you've not read anything by D.E. Stevenson, I highly recommend you check out anything by her. You will not be disappointed. Next up is anything by James Herriot. As I'm sure all of you know, James Herriot was a country vet living in Yorkshire in England. His books have been made into a television series by the BBC, which is fabulous. I love that series. I think actually there's even a new remake of it. I've only watched the old original series. I'm going to have to check out the new series. But the books are fantastic. I read these when I was a young girl and I loved them. His descriptions of the quirky people he deals with and their relationship to their animals and all the kind of funny little animals, it's just fantastic. And it's very poignant. There are some hard things that he deals with. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll just feel uplifted by reading this. He does it in such a respectful and gentle way. If you've only seen the series on television, then I highly recommend you check out the books. You will not be disappointed. For my last two recommendations for this video, we're coming back across the pond from England to the United States. The first author that I'd like to recommend is, of course, Jan Karon. I love Jan Karon's Mitford series. These books, if you don't know, take place in the fictional town of Mitford, North Carolina, and they center around Episcopal priest Tim Cavanaugh. But they are fabulous descriptions of life in a small North Carolina town. The ups and downs of people's lives, the triumphs and dramas, all that goes on living in a small town. But what I find so uplifting is that they're very positive, and it's a very positive spin on the importance of friends, family, and faith in a small town. So when the world seems heavy, as it tends to do these days, I recommend that you pick up a book by Jan Karon, pour yourself a nice hot cup of tea, curl up under a blanket, and enjoy a slice of small town life in North Carolina. And then my last recommendation for cozy domestic fiction is also by an American author, and that is Gladys Tabor. I love her Stillmeadow Farm series. She describes life in her Connecticut farmhouse. I have The Country Chronicle by Gladys Tabor, and this is really a description of life written seasonally. I love seasonal writing. I love seasonal reading. And she describes the changes in nature, kind of what she sees looking out the window of her Connecticut farmhouse. And I love her writing. I'm trying to collect her books. They are difficult to get a hold of. They can go for some high prices, even used. So far I have one. I've checked a couple out of the library, but I'd like to get my hands on a few more of them. But she just is a delightful writer with kind of a New England flair to things. So if you're looking for some seasonal writing or life that's lived seasonally, I recommend you pick up something by Gladys Tabor in her Stillmeadow series or her Country Chronicle. Well, Phoebe's snoring over here. I don't know if you'll be able to see her. There she is, way over there. That is going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed spending the day with me, baking up some delicious lavender scones, and then taking a look at some of my favorite cozy domestic fiction series. If you have any series that you think I would be interested in, be sure to leave them in the description box below. I'm always looking for book recommendations. I will try to link all of these books down in the description box, as well as the recipe for the scones. In the meantime, if you've made it to the end of this video and you've enjoyed the video but you don't want to leave a comment, go ahead and leave me a teapot emoji in the comments section. Those comments and emojis and thumbs up all really help out our channel tremendously. We appreciate each and every one of you, so if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, drop an emoji in the comment box, share it with anyone you think would enjoy it, and if you haven't subscribed, of course, hit that subscribe button. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for today. Take good care of yourselves, and I will see you in a video very soon. Bye-bye.